South Africa may have 11 official languages, but those are not the only languages spoken in the country. Language activists are working hard to make sure that other dialects are not forgotten. One such language is Namasan. More on this, I'm joined by Pan-South African Language Board's Executive Head of Languages, Julius Dantile. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Perhaps we should start right at the very beginning. The Namasan language dates back thousands of years. Where did it originate from?
Good evening to your viewers, and good evening to yourself, Paul. These are the languages that can be traced back to the Nilotic languages around the middle of Africa, Central Africa regions, where then people started to be going around and distributing themselves as they were coming down from the central of the world at the time. They are old languages and identified through mostly the clicks that they have and other modifications on them. So Nama is a Khoi language within the San group, within the Khoi and San languages. So it has been spoken in South Africa, in Botswana, and in Namibia.
And you concerned that the group of languages could be on the verge of extinction. What efforts and strides are being made to revive it and make sure that it's not forgotten and it continues to form a very important part of history and the future?
Let's start by thanking the group of activists that have made certain efforts in terms of maintaining these languages across the board. There were those small individuals over the centuries who strive to preserve the languages. We thank also the recent group of people in the Northern Cape who came together and see to it that they are forming community language activism groups. We appreciate that, and as Pan-South African Language Board, we are encouraging such initiatives, that communities should not just wait for government to do some initiatives of preserving their own cultures and languages. However, they should take up upon themselves to do that. A formal part of the process, which a constitutional institution like Pan-South African Language Board has, include the 8 schools that we are establishing across South Africa, up in about 7 provinces, where we want to target to have at least immense schools, like the one that we did in the Eastern Cape last year, again for Nama, where there was a workshop for a week. People who were interested were part of that to start to learn the basics of the language. Remember, most of the Khoi and San people have lost their languages over the centuries due to colonialism, due to integration with other cultures, and also due to oppression. We have seen their languages being used at diminutive levels or being assimilated into other languages, be it Xhosa, for instance, yeah, or Afrikaans, for instance. Their language are part and parcel of those particular languages. So we have projects that are related to Nama. As I said, we had a Tsitsikama immense classes for a week. We were working on that with the Department of Basic Education in the Eastern Cape. We also did another one just a month or 2 ago, which was in Gaafreinet, and also was attended by almost 70 people who want to start to have the basics of their languages because they have lost it. There are other projects that we are involved in as Pan-South African Language Board across these languages. Remember, it is not only Nama that is have to be developed, but at least it's the one that is mostly progressive language across all the other Khoi and San languages. We as Pan-South African Language Board, we are at the printing stage of spelling and orthography rules for Nama. These spelling and orthography rules have been developed over time. I think it's probably 2 to 3 years, including experts from Namibia who speak a certain version of Nama, which is not actually spoken in South Africa, but there is easy understanding between the languages.
I would imagine, pardon me if you'll allow me to just interrupt you, I would imagine that the dialects part of breaking down the language and formally articulating it would be something that would need a lot of consideration and a lot of conversations around the way forward.
Yes, a huge consultative process, because you have to make sure that you don't leave anyone out. And there is a cliche that goes around in society where it says that nothing about us without us. We ensure that it is not a highly formal and more of a highly technical issue only. It is also inclusive of those who are interested or who are speaking the language. So, for instance, as I'm saying, with the Nama spelling and orthography rules that we have developed as Pan South African Language Board, we were engaging communities, we were engaging people, and also making sure that the actual academic and technical aspect are also maintained within the language. So that we will be providing those rules, and those rules should be adhered to by anyone who wants to either write in that language, so that they respect the native speakers and people who are identifying themselves as a part of that particular language. The language is either called Khoi Khoi Hoab, or is called Damara, but the whole language, these are small varieties that you'll find within the Nama language. So the Nama language is at least the most progressive at the moment amongst these languages. We've got the Nu, in which only one speaker is left, Umakatrina, with now at least her grandchild and other community members striving to learn the basics in that language.
So what will it take for the language to be officially recognized as the 12th of, well, one of the, making up the 12th official languages of South Africa?
All right. We need to be understanding of the status that is accorded to the languages in terms of our constitution. South African Constitution recognizes all languages that are existing in the country. That is the first point that we should be very be aware of in terms of that our constitution is so open that all the languages should be afforded respect. Now, then you have to have what is called the official languages, which is a status that government would use those languages for official communication with the public. Now, the official status is afforded by government. We are a constitutional institution. We are just part of the state, not part of government. So government makes those decisions, but we do, as Pan South African Language Board, put necessary measures to ensure that languages like the South African Sign Language are officialized. We have been doing that over the past couple of years, pushing behind the scenes that government get into recognition, into recognizing sign language as an official language. The reason being is that sign language has been recognized by the Department of Education as an official language in terms of the South African Schools Act. Therefore, and it is being used as a language of learning and teaching in schools, in deaf schools. We've got about 47 deaf schools in South Africa across all provinces. Yes. So that is the reason why some of this process of officializing a language is brought into the space. Absolutely. When you officialize a language, you are just giving it its status. You must then be able, as government, once you give that status, to use the language. Now there is a conundrum that always comes into the space here, where some would be saying that you need to develop the languages before you can use them at higher registers. But that is a conundrum of its own, because the discussion and the debate, and from the perspective of PNSAP, is that you cannot develop a language that you don't use. You cannot use a language that you are not developing. So development and use should be seen as parallel processes that people are able to access information. Remember, language is a tool to access information or to communicate. Therefore, if you are deprived of that particular right, of that access to information, you will not be able to access some of government services and also be a fully fledged citizen in your own country, which is, yeah, I'm talking about now, the people who are recognizing themselves as Nama people or as Khoisan San people. It can be argued in the sense that they are not fully recognized because they are not communicated through their own languages in their native land.
So with the introduction, pardon me, with the introduction of the languages within schools, is there no challenge now of the educators, those who are knowledgeable enough to teach the language? How is that conversation and the process flowing?
The challenge is going to be there, because these languages have never been taken care of in terms of those particular areas, your learning materials, your qualified teachers, in terms of didactics and other structures of teaching methodologies. However, we need to start somewhere. Somewhere is that the speakers of the language are the experts of that language. So it is not only the formal processes that we should be recognizing. Yeah. We should also be recognizing those who've got the passion and the understanding and the learning of the language, that then they can impact through to the next generation. Because if we are going to wait for processes of formal teaching and formal qualified teachers, then we are getting into a space of saying that these languages cannot be utilized.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there. And thank you for your input and, of course, giving us broad detail on how this process will work. For Pan South African Language Board's Executive Head of Languages, Julius Dantile.